Welcome back to the episode of The Change Agent, sponsored by Beyond the Glare and Kalina Vision Professional Services, where we dive into real-world challenges and strategies of leadership, team management, leading remote teams, project management, being an empathetic leader, technology, and more. So whether you're leading a new team or you're just trying to energize an existing one, we've got you covered with insights, tips, and stories to help you succeed as a leader and to inject value fast into your organization. So let's get to it. Welcome back and welcome to episode 12. I'm Eric, and today we are tackling a topic that every project manager faces, whether they want to or not, and whether they're new to the role or you're a seasoned professional, managing complexity and uncertainty in your projects. So the reality is we can all agree on this, that no project goes 100% according to plan. Things change, requirements shift, stakeholders reconsider their priorities. You have external factors that shake up timelines. You have unexpected risks that appear out of nowhere. If you can dream it up, you can imagine that you probably had to deal with this at some point. Now, if you're leading a project, your ability to navigate uncertainty can mean the real difference between what success you see, between the success and the failure of a project. So let's explore this as we've in a scenario kind of role. So let's just assume that we've just been appointed as a project manager for a new project, and you're about to plan your kickoff sessions and get with the team. So right now you're just kind of getting familiar at this stage of the project. You're just getting familiar with the new project itself. Who does what? You're reviewing the charter, if there's one, what the deliverables are, etc. And you find out that there's little documentation, if any. There are no lessons learned, no roadmaps, no strategies, no alignments, no collaboration. And the one thing you do know for sure is that you have a lot of work to do. So, wow. How do you get started with this complex project when there's no clear roadmap or other documentation to even reference? How do you keep your team focused when uncertainty is the only certainty you have? And that's what we really want to kind of dive into today. So let's start by breaking down the differences between complexity and uncertainty, because while they are related, they're not the same thing. So complexity of a project refers to the number of moving parts in a project, how complicated it is, right? So complex. You have multiple stakeholders. You have multiple and intricate workflows. You have multiple dependencies. You have multiple timelines and scheduled deadlines for deliverables to be made. And you have multiple unknown interconnections. Now, uncertainty is everything about the unknown, right? These are your unknown unknowns and things that you can't really control. So like market conditions, shifting requirements, risks that haven't surfaced yet, and all those things that may exist but haven't become issues yet. So here's the tricky part. Complexity breeds uncertainty. And if you remember in past podcasts that I've had, ambiguity kills productivity. Killing productivity kills value generation. And so we definitely want to make sure that we're trying to reduce the ambiguity and change. The more complex a project has or is, the more chances that there are for things to go off track. But the good news is that project managers, we're not here to eliminate complexity, nor are we here to eliminate change necessarily. We're here to manage it effectively. So how do we do this? Let's walk through some key strategies that align with the Project Management Body of Knowledge, the PMBOK Guide, 7th edition. And just as a quick parenthetical, actually. In the last podcast, in episode 11, I accidentally called it the Book of Knowledge. So it is a book if you have it printed, but it is the Project Management Body of Knowledge, the PMBOK Guide. And we're going to be referencing 7th edition. So this is a good, that's just said so you'll know what references I use. I use authoritative sources almost always in my experience. So first, how do we start handling these things? How do we get complexity and certainty underway? So the first one is emphasize adaptability over your rigid planning. It used to be that we had to have rigid plans. We had to have we knew it. Now, this still is the case for large, complex projects that don't have the ability to interject flexibility. So think of, I saw an episode on TV not long ago about these large oil rigs that were being built in South Korea and being towed by these ocean-going towboats to tug them all the way over to the Canary Islands. And of course, any delay in those costs hundreds of thousands of dollars per day. And so you don't have flexibility in those types of projects. So yes, you need to have that rigid plan and you need to have everything accounted for, which is really complex to do. But in the general day-to-day, and specifically, I would say in terms of most projects, you want to try to make sure that you are adaptable. This is really a big deal when you're talking about software development and hardware development, integration, things like that. So move away. Let's talk, focusing on that and assuming that's where we are, move away from the rigid step-by-step plans that you would normally have and more towards an iterative approach where you can continuously reassess where you're at, adjust as needed. So this is really the agile mindset, right? And the idea is that you're interjecting value into your organization often through these iterative approaches. So instead of focusing on building the perfect plan, focus on creating a framework for adapting to change. This can entail building a schedule that, or a path, all right, a roadmap or any of some sort that highlights required deliverables and their dates. Maybe you're referencing a work breakdown structure and their descriptions, but you're really kind of looking for these milestones, these deliverable dates. Put the milestones down in the dates. And you can use many software platforms for this, whether it's Smartsheet, Office Timeline Pro, or if it's Microsoft Project or Project Libra. There are many options out there for you to use if you're not already using one. But what you're really looking to do is get an output where you have a schedule with dots, right? It shows just a high level. Maybe it's in swim lanes. Maybe your software team has certain dates that they have to deliver things. Maybe hardware integration has certain things they have to do. Maybe it's testing and verification and validation have to do certain things. Maybe it's quality have to do certain things. And so you just want these high-level deliverables on the map, right, on the schedule. Next, we want to transition to using risk-based thinking. This is the idea that that we do risk assessments and risk management all the time. It used to be traditionally that risk management was all about listing the risks out, ranking them, and then planning out mitigations and ownership of those risks, and then assessing them on a kind of a weekly, bi-weekly, maybe even a monthly or even a quarterly schedule. But now what we want to try to do is we want to try to migrate over to a continuous risk assessment approach. This is the idea that you're keeping a pulse on emerging risks, adjusting those responses to those risks in real time, ensuring that teams are ready to pivot when they need to and that everybody has everything they need. The PMBOK guide emphasizes this in the terms of resilience. This means making risk management an ongoing conversation and operation, not just a one-time checklist. The next thing you want to do is improve your stakeholder communication. I would be shocked if there was someone that could argue that your stakeholder communication is perfect. There's some improvement that can be made for sure. So uncertainty makes people anxious, especially stakeholders who want predictability. So your role as a project manager isn't just about managing risks. It's about managing expectations. Be transparent through communication. If you don't know something, acknowledge it and communicate the steps that are going to be taken to get the answers that they're looking for. Use frequent touch points to make sure that people are getting the updates they need and that stakeholders are aligned with the conditions as they evolve. Next, last one, I think, is building a resilient team. This is a really big deal, right? So the project is only as strong as its team. So how can you help your team thrive in uncertain environments? Well, one of those could be fostering a culture of experimentation. So encourage your team members to test their solutions, for them to fail fast, and for them to learn quickly. An uncertain environment requires learning through actions. It does not work if you're trying to wait for the perfect answer. This generally is a great place for you to employ at least the foundational concepts of agile practitioner mindsets and continuous value realization. So interjecting these foundational ideas and practices for iterative approaches will really improve your culture of experimentation as you evolve quickly and deliver value. Next, you might want to focus on psychological safety. So you might be thinking of what that means. Well, when teams feel safe, and they're able to speak up. So when they would be more likely to raise red flags early. They would be more likely to propose innovative solutions. They would be more likely to adapt if they have this sense of safety in the workplace. This includes, I should go without saying physical safety, but mostly psychological safety. Encourage open dialogue around your team, especially when things aren't going as planned. And this is, again, another reason why agile mindsets are, the agile practice, agile methodologies are valuable in these types of scenarios. Another option you can also use to help plan for uncertainty is using scenario planning. Scenario planning is really good. A lot of government agencies, military, and intelligence agencies use this. But this helps them prepare for the unknown. So instead of planning for a single future of what one thing may look like, try to consider multiple outcomes. Try to think about the worst case, best case, and most likely scenarios so that you're never caught off guard, right? And it's really important that you do those things. Another tool that managers might want to use is, especially in business analysis and the ability to manage what the outcome of a project may be, is using the analysis of competing hypotheses. This ACH process, analysis of competing hypotheses, was developed by a 45-year veteran of the CIA. His name was Richard J. Hoyer Jr. And you can find this concept in his book called The Psychology of Intelligence Analysis. But it does require a lot of time and effort to develop multiple sound hypotheses and then viable courses of action and likelihood of those actions. But it really works, especially if it's a team effort and there are many ideas that are generated from those group meetings. I've read this thing more than 10 times, this book, and I can count on my hands how many times that it's ever failed. It's never failed when you have the time and the resources to put into it. So that's one of the biggest things that you want to try to tackle, is to try to come up with ways to mitigate the uncertainty. Project managers don't eliminate uncertainty. We learn to lead through it. When you focus on adaptability, when you focus on resilience, when you focus on strong communication, complexity and uncertainty becomes manageable. And then uncertainty becomes just another challenge that you're tackling. So what are your thoughts? How do you handle complexity in your projects? I'd love to hear from you on those things. You can throw some reviews down into the podcast review, wherever you might be listening, on what platform. And hopefully these things have helped you improve, or at least give you some ideas on how you can manage uncertainty and complexity in your projects. So that's a wrap for this short podcast for today. If you found it really helpful, don't forget to subscribe and to the podcast, and make sure you leave a review. If you'd like more information on how to engage with me directly, you can head over to kalinavision.com. That's KALYN as in Nancy A-vision.com, and catch us on YouTube at Beyond the Glare to learn more and see how we can help you and your team remove obstacles and address challenges, enabling your team and organization to succeed.